And Peter is about to realize something. He's about to realize that he has grossly underestimated the extent of God's love. He's about to realize in a very powerful way that God's heart beats for all people everywhere. And sometimes, in order for us to do what God is asking us to do, we've got to unlearn what we've always known. Have you ever wondered why? Let's hit pause here on a story just for a second. Have you ever wondered why the angel didn't just tell Cornelius about Jesus? Remember, God sent an angel in a vision to tell Cornelius to send for Peter. Why didn't the angel just tell him about Jesus? Why did he say, go send for Peter and Peter will tell you about Jesus? Have you ever heard somebody say, I wish that God would just talk to me directly? Well, here's the opportunity. There is literally an angel speaking to Cornelius who could have told him about Jesus. Probably preached a better sermon than Peter. And yet that's not how God wanted it to play out, because in God's infinite wisdom, he decided that the best way to change the world, the best way to unleash the good news of his Son on the world was for the church, us, you and me, to go out and to reach people who are far from Jesus and tell them about Jesus. It has been God's plan since the beginning of the church that he would use us, you and me, to go out and reach those who are far from his Son. And we see this happening over and over again in the book of Acts. Remember the story of the Ethiopian eunuch, Acts chapter 3? He's sitting in his, Acts chapter 8, he's sitting in his chariot, and as he's reading God's word, he's reading from the scroll of Isaiah, he doesn't understand what it means, and so what does God's Spirit do? The Spirit sends Philip, an early church leader, to go and explain to the Ethiopian eunuch what he's reading. Again, God chooses to send his people to tell those who are far from his Son about his Son. What about Saul of Tarsus, who later became the Apostle Paul? Saul of Tarsus was on the road to Damascus, and Jesus appears to him in a vision. And here's the thing, even though Jesus appears to Saul in a vision, Jesus doesn't try to convert Saul. Instead, Jesus says, Saul, go on into the city, and there's a man there named Ananias who's one of my followers, and he'll tell you about me. Why wouldn't Jesus just preach to him? Because in God's infinite wisdom, he decided the best way to change the world was to use you and me. And here's the thing, that blows me away. Because I know how imperfect I am, I know how weak I am, and I don't have a lot of confidence in myself, but apparently God does. You may look at yourself and say, I'm not much, I don't have a lot of abilities and skills. God has confidence in you. He decided that the best way to change the world was by using you and me. But here's the thing, we've got to catch the wind. Because faith doesn't come just by seeing, as some people believe. The Bible teaches that faith comes by hearing. So faith comes from hearing the good news, and people hear the good news when someone tells them about Christ. Romans 10:17. That means we got to get busy. People can observe our faith, but they're never going to actually know who Jesus is unless we talk to them about him, unless we introduce them to Jesus.